Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain, where I actually just finished my coffee, so I put my little mug over there. I'm not sure if it's still raining outside or not, but it was sprinkling earlier, so perhaps. But we always have books. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I hope that you will like and subscribe as we dive into today's book, Holy Terrors, by Margaret Owens. Margaret Owens. I swear, my coffee has just made me so tongue-tied. But this is Little Thieves number 3, and I do believe this is intended to be the ending of this trilogy. So going ahead and putting it out there that this is a really good book. Now, this does release April 1st of 2025, and this is not an April Fool's, just by the way. But let's dive into the summary and go from there. Now, I do give this book, so I gave it 4.5 stars. Rounded it up for Goodreads because I don't get partial stars on Goodreads, which again, one day that's gonna have to change. Like Goodreads needs to allow us to be more specific in our star ratings. Like if I want to give 4.5 stars, I should be able to give 4.5 stars. But it's been nearly 2 years since Vanya brought down the cult she started, and she's still paying the price. As the Finnegeist, she bucks the law in order to help the desperate and haunt the corrupt all across the empire, and no matter what, she works alone. But as an impossible killer is tearing through royalty and leaving Vanya's signature red penny on every victim, suddenly the Finnegeist is no longer a folk hero, but a nightmare. Even when the blessed Empress falls, the Empire's 7 royal families must gather to elect her successor within a matter of weeks, or risk the collapse of reality itself, even though it puts every house in the killer's sights. Vanya tells herself she's wading into royalty's vicious games only to save the name she's made, and loved ones are also in jeopardy. But the Order of Prefects has also put their sharpest official on the case, the one who'd swore he'd always find Vanya, until she broke his heart. Journeyman Prefect Emmerich Conrad may no longer be the boy Vanya knew, but they'll have to work together one last time to have a chance of surviving the deadly catastrophe coming for them all. With bloody conspiracy, sinister magic, and old adversaries closing in, it will take everything Vanya has to save not just the people she loves, but the future she's fought for. In this thrilling final chapter of the indie next series, Little Thieves, New York Times bestselling author Margaret Owens shows us the pain and beauty of choosing which demons to face and which to forgive. Now, it is a little bit of a lengthy book. It is approximately 560 pages in hardcover, but we had a lot to wrap up, and it is anticipated release of April 1st. I did have the audiobook that I received from NetGalley, so I absolutely want to thank them for giving me the audiobook, because that just meant I could listen to it longer and do my chores while I'm really engrossed in this book. Really, really good, by the way. And I do believe that my friend Annalicia and I, when Margaret Owens released, I want to say her first or second book, we got to do an interview with her. So if you are interested in looking for that, you are welcome to go find our podcast, Books Are Magical, on most podcast platforms such as Spotify and Apple. And go check out our interview with Margaret Owens for that book as well. I can't believe the ride is over. This series is so incredibly good. Vanya she's come a long way, and yet she's still the same person that we met at the very beginning. She still has a lot of growing up to do, even though in this particular book we do see that she has grown up in some ways. At the end of book 2, let me go ahead and first off by saying I do believe you need to read the other 2 books in this series before you pick this one up. There is so much backstory that you really need to understand before you dive into this one. You need to know about Vanya's history and where she started out. You need to know about Vanya and Emmerich's relationship, her relationship with her godmothers, and just in general, the people that Vanya has come to care for through the course of this series. If you start with this particular book, you are going to be missing so many of those pieces that it will not make just a ton of sense. And so that is kind of my spiel or my plug for encouraging you to go out there, find the other two books, read them, and then come back to this one. It is well worth reading the full series. I don't know if there's been a series that I felt in a long time that had 3 fairly strong installments in it. Like every once in a while you'll pick up a series and you're like, oh, the first one's really good, and then it kind of drops off a little bit, and then maybe the third one goes back up, or maybe they just kind of continue to go. Like, it really is not frequent, in my personal thoughts, to find a series that you have 3 really fairly strong stories and plots where they each, like, yes, it relies on you reading the first one or the second one to understand what's going on in them, so you do need to read them in the series, but each has a very strong plot and storyline in and of itself that makes it good. So want to go ahead and just let you guys know that. At the end of the first one, or the second one, I was really convinced that Vanya and Emmerich were on this really good path together. It was cute. It was adorable. We had this really good relationship going on between these two characters. Then we pick this one up, and 2 years have passed, and Vanya's out doing her thing because, as the book tells us, Vanya had come to a fork in the road where she could picture herself going down one particular path and being with Emmerich, and things like having to change in different ways to fit into his life, or maybe him having to change in ways to fit into her life. And she started thinking that was really unfair for either of them to have to give up things that they really loved for each other. So instead of giving him a choice, she walked away from that life. She walked away from Emmerich, and she moved on with her life really without talking to him. And so she kind of dates and all this kind of stuff as we're kind of going through this book. And one particular guy, he's like they had a relationship and it was a pretty good relationship, but then they broke up, but then like they were able to stay friends, which is really good, because they weren't going to be together, but they made really good friends, even if they were no longer benefiting in a relationship sort of way. However, we come back to that situation when Vanya has to go to pretty much where, like, the Empress has died, and now we have to have a new Emperor or Empress. So the 7 royal families have to come together in order to figure out who the next emperor or empress is going to be. And Vanya kind of goes as one of the prefects, kind of maids or servants in a way. And this is not the first time she's been a maid or a servant, but it is the first time that she's back in Emmerich's life, and the person that she's supposed to be working with or working for is Emmerich's fiance. And so that's a pretty big piece to this particular book as well, is she now has to work through the fact that Emmerich has moved on, and she's angry, which is baffling in my particular thought, because she's the one who walked away without giving him a choice. He had to pick up the pieces of his life and then figure out a way to move forward. So in my personal thoughts, I was angry at her a lot of the times, because I was just like, oh my gosh, how in the world are we back in this place where we don't actually communicate with each other? How have we gotten to a point where I thought we had grown up, potentially had evolved as characters, and we didn't. We go back to this same juvenile way of thinking when it comes to, oh, I should say this, oh, I feel this, oh, I'm not going to, oh, all of that drives me wild. Because if you're not able to talk to a person about the things that matter, then who else are you going to talk to them about? How are you, you're never going to be able to, I guess, be whole in yourself if you can't communicate well. So, sorry, little coffee bubble there from like a minute ago. We have some fairly miserable people in this book who are still haunted by the past. And I love the fact that Giselle is back in this book. She was one of Vanya's friends from one of the other books. It's like at first they weren't really friends, but now they are friends. And Giselle is married to Ragna at this particular point, and Giselle does not want to be the next emperor or empress because it would affect her ability to remain married to her wife Ragna, and she doesn't want Ragna to change for her to be able to be this position. It's just not something that she wants. I wish that we could see more from these characters. I would love to get some novellas. Like I would love a novella like from Ragna's perspective or Giselle and Ragna's perspective. I think that would be fantastic. This book does when I wrote my Goodreads review, I'm so hopeful that we're going to get more from this world. I really am. I do think this wraps it up pretty well, but I hate being done with this world. I hate being done with these characters because I think they've really come out and been characters that I've really enjoyed getting to know. They are like Vanya again. She's like this morally gray character. She does some bad things, but usually for pretty good reasons. Like, she's not bad to just be bad on purpose, except at the very beginning, she's trying to steal the ring off of a dead body, but he's not using it, he's dead. And she accidentally maybe catches the body on fire a little bit, and, there's a lot of other things kind of going down. I do like the fact that this other person kind of says, they're like, it says growth that we see in Vanya and Emmerich will have you questioning whether this is a YA book. And the reason I bring that up is because I don't agree. I don't agree with the absolute epic growth because I don't see a lot of growth. I see minuscule steps towards growth from Vanya, and I see Emmerich, who is so broken by by the way Vanya ended things, that he's mad. He's angry. And he was trying to move on, and now she's back in his life, and now we are... the growth we had has now retreated. But it's it is a YA series, and I have to remind myself that because someone else kind of was like, it's actually the perfect YA series. And I'm like, it's not perfect, but I think that's why I like it, is because the characters are flawed, but they feel real in a lot of ways. I just wish Vanya's manipulation of the situation so frequently was a little less. Anyway, it's a good book. It's a really good book, and I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to give spoilers away. I just want you to know that there is a killer out there. People will not make it to the end, some of them being very important characters, some that you will grow to love along the way, and let's just say it's a great book, and like I said, I think I gave it 4.5 stars because I really want to put that in there. And the narration was really, really done well as well. But with all of that being said, I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you'll go out and find this book when it releases on April 1st. It should be in most bookstores that I know of, but of course, if you go to smaller indie books, maybe you can request it. Maybe they can get you a copy. That would be awesome. But support your local, and you know what? Thank you so much for tuning in, for liking and subscribing. And if you haven't already, I certainly hope you will. And with all of that being said, thank you for joining me on this journey, and we will see you on the next page. Have a great one.